Greetings listeners, and welcome to the first of our 3 sci-fi specials on the Waffle. In honour of Doctor Who's impending 50th anniversary, we've decided to do 2 shows dedicated to the genre of science fiction, culminating in a Doctor Who finale that will go all out on everyone's favourite Time Lord. And to start it off, we tried to get a big name guest by the name of Christopher. So Chris, I didn't know if you wanted to be on the show next week.
No.
I mean, we've got some great guests.
Oh, really?
We've got Emma Preuss and Lucy Ahmed coming on. We've got James Millar.
No.
Are you sure?
No.
I mean, is that a no as in blurred lines kind of no, or...?
It means no.
Right. As you can see, that didn't work so well. So on the show this week, we have a man who, like Luke Skywalker, has faced off against a man who stalked the corridors of power with a lust for the dark side. Unlike Luke Skywalker, he only had to walk past Peter Mandelson. Hello, Christopher Stanley.
The pinky and the brain, yes, pinky and the brain.
Hello. I sense your presence.
So I got on Skype. Hello!
Hello, how are you?
I'm alright. I'm in Williston. Or Willesden as it's normally known, but Rachel calls it Williston. So, spread the word.
Spread the word. People go to Wollaston.
Sounding a bit drunk there.
It's 10 past 7 on a Friday night, Chris. We've got to start.
Living it wild.
Okay, and next up, the Waffles' very own Ripley. A dap hand with a loader, she'll always rescue the cat and protect her loved ones from slobbering creepy xenomorphs on a Thursday night in Club I. In Swindon, no one can hear you scream. It's Emma Preuss.
Hiya, nice to be back.
How are you?
I'm very well, thanks.
And I hear you brought a +1 on the show this week.
I have, yes. I've also brought with me the rather fantastic Lucy Ahmed. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So are you going to be helping Emma with all her answers?
I'm comfortable with a few answers, yeah.
Are we just going to get 8 answers of David Tennant?
No, not if I have anything to do with it.
Can I point out that it's rather weird because on Skype, Lucy's voice is coming up, but Emma's face is coming up. So it's Emma's face with Lucy's voice.
They are merging into one person.
Confusing.
Finally on the show, the Waffle's very own self-proclaimed Dark Lord of the Sith. In fact, he has about as many victories under his belt as Emperor Palpatine has in Jedi fights. Welcome back, the Chosen One. It's James Millar.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm sorry, I thought I meant James Millar, not William Shatner.
It's easy mistake to make.
Oh, have we got Picard there as well?
What? Engage.
Nah, I couldn't make it.
Okay, you okay, James? You up for the the sci-fi special?
I'm so up for it. You can't even understand how up for it I am.
I mean, this is surely the show that you should do well in.
This is my realm. This is where I'm king. I'm the king boss.
Brilliant. Well, let's see how you get on. So the rules are simple. Points for wonderfully geeky answers and bribery is forever frowned upon. Our top 2 contestants this week will win a place in the Doctor Who special, whilst the loser will get to warm the sofa with John Barrowman. Question 1. Science fiction is often used to reflect issues in the contemporary world. So give me an example of a science fiction film or show that highlights a world or social issue. And James, as you're set up for this one?
Yeah, I've gone more for a book than a show or a film.
Okay.
It's a brand new sci-fi book that I read the other week. I thought it's fantastic. It's by a chap called Brandon Sanderson, and the book's called Steelheart. It's like a superhero novel, but it's completely different to any other superhero thing I've ever seen, with the exception of the Justice Lords, but that's just another matter. Essentially, these people, just normal people, one day developed superpowers, but they were all evil. So they're these superheroes that people started off just thinking, oh, it's fine, some of them are evil, but eventually good ones will come, like you see in all the TV shows, they'll come and save us. But no one ever did, and they ended up becoming really corrupt. They took over cities and just laid waste to the country, and to me it was just seemed to be like a commentary on how everybody today seems to be dependent on someone else to do stuff. Like you see adverts for like those diet adverts where they say, "Oh, they just deliver all the food straight to your door. You don't have to think about anything." And then how everybody just seems to ignore the massive mess people in power seem to make of the thing they're in power of.
Okay, and Christopher next.
I've gone with a slightly recent episode of Doctor Who with the Power of Three, which I think is just the world's current reaction to anything that's sort of new or sciencey. Random cubes arrive, and all people do is they don't try and fight them, they don't try and understand them, they just use loads and loads of social media to interact with them. You know, there's one bit where Kate Stewart's just saying within 3 hours the cubes had 1,000 separate Twitter accounts. The Doctor's response to that being brilliant. You just go to sort of Twitter in a disgusted manner. On that note, feel free to check out our Twitter account, the 11 o'clock Waffle. It's great.
Points!
I thought you said bribery would get us nowhere.
It's not bribery, it's plugging. There is a difference.
Yeah, there's a massive difference. Now over to Emma and Lucy.
Well, we decided we were going to go with Star Trek. And although Star Trek ended up being ahead of its time in many ways, but it also was very clever in how it dealt with events of the time. So when you had, for example, you had a character like Chekhov at a time during the Cold War, and it was a way of, you had a character here with a Russian accent, and actually a Russian character at a time when all the other American shows were there casting the Russians as villains. It's a time saying, well, look, we're all people in the future, we're not going to really care about this. But I think more importantly on Star Trek was the first interracial on-screen kiss between Kirk and Uhura. And that was incredibly forward-thinking. They had to fight incredibly hard to get that aired, especially in some of the southern states of the US. And I think that was a great way of dealing with it.
That's a good answer. William Shatner, what did you think of the kiss?
It was pleasant to say the least.
It's got this brilliant mental image of southern farmers in the 1960s trying to watch Star Trek. Like, honey, I can't understand this Klingon language at all.
It's a show that, it's a show and they're like, oh no, it's fine if he makes out with someone who's green. Wait a second, she's black.
I see green folks all the time. One too many whiskies.
Okay, question 2 now. Given that science fiction is mostly, well, fiction, give me one piece of information from the world of science fiction which is actually Emma.
This is an interesting one. Ended up being Star Trek again.
Did you and Lucy just watch Star Trek for 5 days?
No.
We found other ways to amuse ourselves.
Moving on.
No, Star Trek was ahead of its time in many ways, but a weird and interesting one is the device Bones used to do vaccinations. It was like a way of injecting people without using an actual needle. And this device actually existed and came into being around the same time that Star Trek did. And it's called a hypo spray in Star Trek, but it's actually called a jet injector in real life, and it uses air pressure rather than a needle to inject vaccinations. It's actually quicker, more hygienic, and is often used for mass vaccinations. Quite a nifty little bit of technology that's science-backed.
That's so cool. Not available on the NHS, I guess.
Probably not normally, but...
Is anything these days?
But if you had an emergency situation where you suddenly needed to come out with a large amount of vaccinations in one go, maybe you would.
Interesting. Okay, Chris.
The various things that have been written in science fiction books now all exist. Robot pals. You can actually get now a seal, it's kind of like a Harpo seal, that actually has motion sensors and touch, and apparently it's been really good for old people who are sort of sick or in need of care. Everyone say "aww." Hoverboards kind of exist, but they're really rubbish because all they do is they work via electromagnets, and they've got a podium, but they only work with the podium and they don't support your weight. So hoverboards have been a massive disappointment. But jetpacks, I think, are the one I am going with because they're the most impressive, and they've actually been around the longest. They have actually existed late in the Second World War. German military scientists created something called the Himmelstürmer, otherwise known as the Heavenstormer, which I think is a great name for an 80s rock band. which is a rudimentary powered jump system, and it was intended to let soldiers leap across minefields, which I think is just a beautiful image. So they're like, how do we get across this minefield? With a jetpack.
I guess it's the kind of thing that if it fails, you can't take it back and say it wasn't fit for purpose.
No, not as such. They've kind of got one that sort of works more and like flies for longer, but it weighs a ridiculous amount, of like almost half a ton. So it's quite difficult to wear.
Wow.
The problem with jetpacks is that the amount of fuel you need for them to take off is so much that to have the amount you need to fly for any given time makes it too heavy to be portable. So the problem with jetpacks is they're not going to get better until someone comes up with an alternative fuel source.
Yeah, but ray guns, the things they used in Independence Day, the American military have actually created them now, so be slightly afraid.
Oh, God.
Okay, James, you've got a tough round to beat there with jetpacks and hydro syringes.
It's true. I've got a couple here. Again, Star Trek, the replicators they use for making their food and stuff, we're not quite there yet. But we've got stuff like 3D printers. You put an image in on the computer, and it will replicate it, which I think they're pretty cool. And then more importantly, they've actually made lightsabers.
What?
What?
They found a way, yeah, seriously. It was a complete accident. They were experimenting with photons, and they found that when they passed a group of photons through a cloud of rubidium atoms, that the photons then clumped together and formed like a physical clump that acted like a lightsaber. It was a physical clump of light that could interact physically with its surroundings. So
it could cut through things.
Exactly, lightsabers aren't that far away.
Hello, Christmas.
Yep.
Might have to stump up a bit of money for one of those.
That sounds amazing. Okay, question number 3 now. Science fiction involves an awful lot of time travel. So if you had the DeLorean for a day, because it's probably the only time travel device cooler than the TARDIS, what year would you go to that was the best year for science fiction? Chris?
So many answers said at a time. My instinctive answer was to go with 1963, because of course that's when Doctor Who started. My slightly cynical answer is to go back to 1980, because that's when The Empire Strikes Back, and I could just stand outside all the cinemas in all the world, just keep going.
Spoilers!
Luke is actually, yeah. We know what I'd do. Another good year I'd quite like to go back to actually see how people reacted at the time. I think it's a great year. It's 1938, which is when they actually read War of the Worlds as a radio play. And it spooked so many people because...
That was 1938?
Yeah, to be fair, the world...
Earlier.
No, 38, because the world was kind of on the brink of World War II at that point anyway, because Hitler was getting himself into a right sort of case of skullduggery, and people were actually there going, oh dear goodness, it's actually war, aliens, help, because they were panicking enough as it is. And I think the radio people took quite a bit of flack because people were like, we thought you were being serious, don't do that. Presumably when the sort of news came out later that the next year that there actually was war, people were going, yeah, whatever. First aliens, now war.
So is that it? There's no more years that you'd like to visit from the lab?
I think that'll do.
That'll do?
No, that'll do. I'll have to recharge the TARDIS after that and go back to Cardiff.
DeLorean, Chris, we're in the DeLorean.
DeLorean TARDIS? Wow, that would be good.
I'd rather travel in time in the DeLorean than the TARDIS.
DeLorean's easier
Really?
to control.
Oh, it's so... It's got the flippy up doors. It's really cool.
The TARDIS has
be
infinite
comfy,
rooms,
though.
though.
Yeah, I'm with Chris on this.
And the
You've got-
DeLorean handles like a brick.
Yeah, I agree with what James said.
But it's
Yeah.
DeLorean. I love the
Yeah.
DeLorean.
But with the TARDIS, you can get there and you can basically have a luxury hotel while you're there. And you
Yeah,
have travel facilities all the way there. And I was like, a DeLorean? You've got a car.
There's bunk beds, especially for couples in the TARDIS.
James?
I would probably go back to 1894/95 to give H.G. Wells the idea to write about a time machine.
Nice.
I think it'd be awesome. Also, H.G. Wells, one of the greatest names in science fiction writing. It'd be great to just chill out, have a few beers.
I'll give you a bonus point if you can tell me where H.G. Wells worked and lived in London.
Yeah, to keep that bonus point, Mac. I ain't got a Danny.
Nobody knows? Nobody wants the bonus point?
Baker Street?
Correct! Chris gets a bonus
Yes!
point.
Nice.
Hurrah.
There's a picture of me on Facebook stood underneath the blue plaque.
Ah.
Chris has been
Awesome.
clearly stalking me.
Cue sax solo.
Okay, and Emma.
We've decided to go with 1963, 23rd of November. The time was 6:16 p.m. on Saturday, and we would want to watch the first episode of Doctor Who. But I'd also want to go and meet William Hartnell because I'd want to tell him what sort of legacy that his show was going to have.
And I had another idea, which is if I had a time machine, I actually want to go into the future. And I want to see what science fiction is yet to come. I also want to get to the date, which is the rise of the machines, and see whether it's actually going to happen. Because although one of them's passed, there is another one still yet to come. You know, we need to check out whether the uprising is going to happen.
It's already been released by Muse 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh.
Can I just say that I would go back to 1988 and solve Jack the Ripper.
1988?
Sorry, 1888.
You keep
was...
You keep mentioning this Jack the Ripper thing to me, Mac. Are you planning on writing some sort of story?
I've solved Jack the Ripper. You just go
It
back
was
to
Edward the 7th.
You go back to 1888 because you know where all of the crimes are going to take place. And as long as you get him after he's committed the 5th crime, which was the final one that they linked to him, as long as you get him after that 5th crime and remove him from history, the legacy's preserved and you've solved Jack the Ripper. Time will not be destroyed.
And his dyslexic brother, Jick the Rapper.
Oh, God. About the only thing they know about Jack the Ripper is that he's left-handed.
And that he was probably a doctor.
Yeah, it was me, sorry.
Yeah.
James, you're a doctor? This explains everything.
He's left-handed, so am I.
This is
I'm
the thing,
left-handed
Mac
as
would
well.
turn up at the crime of the scene at the right time, having travelled back there. Then he'll get captured by someone else. He's tried to do the same thing.
I'd probably just stick out like a sore thumb being the best dressed man in the whole of London.
Yeah, they'd be like, what have you put in your hair? What is this strange chemical?
Anyway, before we have the scores, quick plug, Ripper Street starts back on Monday, so, you know, it's awesome, watch it. So the scores, on 10 points, it's James, just ahead on 12, it's Emma and Lucy,
Woo!
and because of his bonus point, Chris is in the lead on 14.
14.
Question number 4, fairly simple this one, best sci-fi television series, James.
It's got to be Firefly. Pure genius. Short-lived as it was fantastic. It's cowboys in space.
Cowboys, and it kind of ties into the factually accurate thing as well, because they never actually had any sound on the space shots.
Exactly. It was quiet in space. Chinese became a massive part of culture because there were so many of them, and they're, like they are at the minute, they're expanding their economy, getting involved in everything. And so in the future, why would they not be a massive part of the culture? And so everybody's spewing Chinese left, right and centre. The spaceships were fairly realistic in terms of like the space-saving toilets and sinks all folded away and stuff. It was fantastic. Well cast, well written, perfect.
Summer Glau.
Exactly, and followed closely by Farscape. I loved Farscape, that was amazing.
Farscape was pretty cool, actually.
Jim Heads and Puppets, fantastic.
Emusi.
Yeah, we're going for a Doctor Who answer again. It's just because of the scope of the show. You literally can do anything with that format. He can go other planets, future, past. It's unique in that sense. And also just the time that it's lasted, 50 years, the legacy that it's done for British TV as well. Also just the massive fan base that it has, and that it changes for each generation depending on which Doctor you have.
And you can talk to a fan of any age, and they will each have their Doctor, who is from their generation of watching it. And there are very few other shows that are able to say that.
I wonder who Lucy's Doctor is.
I wonder.
I like
Baker.
I like number 10, and I also like Sylvester McCoy actually. So
I used to, I still do it actually, when I'm playing with my little niece. I like to go, come along, Pond. And she looks confused and goes, why are you calling me Pond?
Have you taught her to say Geronimo? You have, haven't you?
Yeah, I took her, last time I saw her, she wanted to go on the swing, so I was pulling the swing back till she got to the height she wanted to go from, and I'd go, right, what do we say when we want to let go of the swing? And she goes, allons-y, and you let go, and then she swings. I taught her Geronimo.
Oh, wow. That's adorable!
And I taught her all about aerodynamics. I managed to teach her to say aerodynamics, and she's about 5 or 6.
Did you teach her how to make fish fingers with custard?
No. But, Next time I see her, I'll fish fingers and custard.
Not yogurts. It's just stuff with bits in.
Chris, best sci-fi television series.
I'm going to go with one that's a little sad because it got cancelled about 10 years ago, but it was great about kind of science fiction becoming science fact. It's Tomorrow's World.
Oh.
When I remember it used to have Peter Snow and Philippa Forrester, who was also in Robot Wars. And it just, in many cases, it just offered mainly British public, but it did go worldwide for a bit. The first chance to see sort of like brand new key technologies that people had only sort of dreamed of, imagined. So it had things like you had the breathalyzer, you had the digital watch, you had teletext, CPAX, which is since gone, personal stereo, camcorder, barcode reader, clockwork radio, and even the robotic vacuum cleaner, which was created as far back as '96.
I will say one thing about that show. They did say we would have robot butlers by now.
I have to admit, it was always a little bit disappointing looking back on that. Tomorrow's World did make me think that by now I would be living in an amazing utopia.
You're in Swindon.
I'm not in Swindon.
I've been in Swindon more recently than ever. I went to watch Swindon Town against Plymouth Argyle. It was very exotic.
No matter which way round you see that fixture, it's not exotic.
Quite a lot of Plymouth fans, considering it was a Johnston Paint Trophy fixture on a Tuesday night, which is just, yeah. If you ever have a first date, don't take them to a Swindon Town match on a Tuesday night. It's not
really,
that good.
really.
I think some people do though, Emma. I think some people think that's a really good idea for a date. I take Rachel.
Probably.
Did you take Rachel to see Swindon Plymouth?
No, I took her to see Ipswich QPR once, and I don't think she's quite forgiven me.
She's marrying you.
Yeah, that's not the same as forgiving. That's not the same as forgiving.
You must have a lot of charm to make up for that, Mr. Stanley.
I've got a lot of hats and a ukulele.
And a spaceship to rocket pilot.
Quite possibly. You'll be hearing from my lawyers.
Question number 5, and probably I'm quite proud of this question. Just put it out there. I think it's a good question. What is the most iconic outfit in science fiction? We'll start with the fashion experts on this. Emusi.
We thought a lot on this one. And I mean, we thought about maybe Tom Baker's Doctor. We thought about the Star Trek uniform. But in the end, to be honest, costume design, it's probably Star Wars that's going to win. They're some of the most iconic outfits in science fiction. And to be honest, if you think of science fiction characters, that's probably the first place you go. And in the end, we went for Darth Vader, because he's just instantly recognisable. And the word iconic really fits there. You can come across anyone, they could have never seen Star Wars in their life, and they'd probably still recognise Darth Vader.
I could have bought Darth Vader's costume once in Florida, but it was about $20,000 light.
That's a lot of money for a Darth Vader costume.
Yeah, but could you imagine how awesome that would have been at a Feckles party?
It wasn't just the costume, it didn't come with any special features. Like, actual lightsabers.
No, because the lightsabers have only just been invented, Chris.
Was it the actual costume from the film, Matt?
I'm not too sure. I imagine they had several costumes for the film.
Yeah, I think the actual costume
probably
would
fit you anyway. It'd be massive on you.
Yeah.
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 You'd have the sleeves and the ends of the feet dragging behind you like a...
The actual
bonus point going if you can tell me what the guy who played Darth Vader did, what his other job was.
He was the Green Cross Man.
Points!
Yes.
Dang it.
He taught road safety.
He was also West Country.
He was from Bristol, which is why they dubbed his voice.
Darth Farmer.
Pretty much, yeah.
Luke, join me, we'll together we'll conquer this galaxy.
Great big tall guy.
Giving people now the misconception that everyone from Bristol sounds like James Earl Jones, aka Mufasa.
James next. Let's go for James.
I had Darth Vader in the Starfleet uniform on my list as well. There's loads in Star Wars. Stormtroopers, Slave Princess Leia.
We did kind of assume that would be on at least someone's list.
Is that what Lucy's wearing right now next to you?
Yeah, obviously.
Points.
You've also got stuff like Ming the Merciless and Flash Gordon. I mean, they're pretty awesome costumes. And then, like, the original Cylons, they were just guys in costumes. They were pretty cool.
When I think of Flash Gordon, my main memory is just tiny golden hot pants and it being horrendous.
Okay, and Chris, most iconic outfit in science fiction.
Well, both Miles has pitched to sort of had Tom Baker's hat and scarf combo, and I also had the Princess Leia outfit. So I'm going to kind of have to go for other things.
That's a hell of a roleplay night, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, you know, the scarf probably covers up more than the Princess Leia costume does. I think actually Peter Davis's outfit as the Fifth Doctor is quite impressive because he made wearing celery look cool. And you think normally, sort of, you'd never get away with wearing celery at a party or any sort of social outgoing, but he just made it look effortless.
Yes, you did.
Decorative vegetables.
Decorative vegetables. I think another one, and a sci-fi thing that hasn't actually been mentioned, is Frankenfurter, Tim Curry's character in Rocky Horror Picture Show. If you can actually wear that comfortably as a bloke, severe respect, because it's quite striking as an outfit. Especially if you've also got the cape that he wears before he reveals everything. I think that's quite iconic. You always see sort of like various cinema sort of film things. If you see someone stood out there sort of wearing that outfit, you know what's on. You don't need to have seen the cinema listings. You know Rocky Horror's back in town.
Chris, your stag do. That's all I'm saying.
My stag do is going to be at the Battle of Hastings. We're just reenacting the Battle of Hastings with water pistols.
I was going to say, I was worried that the DeLorean did exist and that Chris Stanley owned it for a moment then.
As if I'd make it have a historical situation with a French win. That's a terrible use of the DeLorean.
Right, sorry, question 6 next. I can't believe nobody went for Captain Jack there. Come on. Big swishy coat. And James, Mal Reynolds.
Yeah, I thought that, but there are more iconic costumes than the brown coat.
The only thing I can think of now is, ladies, your ratings just went up.
With Lucy on the show, our ratings always go up.
It's certainly true.
The Ahmed effect.
It works.
Okay, question 6 now. So we're going to go a bit come down here with our dream dinner party. So 1 male character, 1 female character, and an alien robot / other. So we'll start with Christopher.
Okay, I've gone with the Master because he always looks quite flashy and he brings a sort of sense of decorum to proceedings, even if he's being extremely evil. Also, it would just be cool to just sit around and chat with John Sim, providing he doesn't turn into a skeleton every now and then. I know that's a possibility.
And eat the chicken off with his fingers.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But he'd get rid of the beggars outside my house. That'd be quite good. And the chip van. Amy Pond as well. We've discussed this in the previous show. I'm getting a call from Rachel. Amy Pond's and possibly Rachel. You're not sci-fi, my dear. I'm sorry. Rachel says she can be sci-fi. Can we have Rachel as she's sci-fi?
Rachel could be in the kitchen cooking the food.
Okay, Rachel could be part of the staff who stay behind after.
Don't do this. You're losing fiance points rapidly.
I never lose fiance points. I just misplace them occasionally. I'm in trouble. And my robot choice, I think, would be R2-D2, simply because he'd be quite good at sort of carrying stuff through, hoovering stuff up, and generally just being very cheerful. And he could also be swearing at the Master, and the Master would have no idea what he was saying. So it'd be quite amusing.
What happens if R2-D2 meets a Henry?
I don't know, but I think it's on the top shelf of most W.H. Smiths.
Or in Ed's house.
Oh, yes. What goes on in Ed's house stays in Ed's house.
Well, I should probably give some points for that. Okay, Emma next. Or Lucy. Who's answering?
Okay, so we've got David Tennant.
No, vetoed.
Okay. Okay, so we've got Captain Jack.
Because he's going to be a man who knows how to party, and he's going to have some good stories. And we were trying to work out who would be a female match for him. And we spent a long time on this because female characters in sci-fi can be a bit hit and miss. And in the end, we went for Catwoman because Batman is technically sci-fi. We thought that she'd be quite a good match for him. She's very classy. She's good at events, and also those two would be very good tit for tat. And then finally, we decided that we wanted to make a decent party of this, so we're inviting along Zaphod Beeblebrox.
Explain.
The man who can mix the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster, he's going to turn this into this dinner party is slowly going to turn into a pretty epic party. And to be honest,
He has 3 arms and 2 heads. Can you just imagine what he's capable of doing?
with Captain Jack, I dread to think. But I think there's going to be some good stories. I think there's going to be a lot of flirting, and I think there's going to be a lot of drinking.
That's just an orgy you formed there.
Yeah, the party is being used quite loosely here. Also, I think, horrifically, I think in comic book world, they killed off Catwoman quite recently.
Spoilers.
It happened 3 months ago.
Yeah, but then the thing with the comics is that various people come in and out and are replaced by different people. We're also saying that Catwoman cannot be Halle Berry.
No.
For God's sake.
Do you know what happens to people played by Halle Berry?
Bad things.
The same thing that happens to everyone else.
Speaking of people who cross in and out of rooms, I think James has left and Shatner's back for this question.
Yes, I am, Mac. I'm not going to do the whole answer in that voice because it's just too much effort. I've gone for, just to make up for not having him in the last one, Mac, I've gone for Captain Malcolm Reynolds because, again, he'd have loads of stories. He's
Drinking
funny.
games.
He's good at drinking, yeah. Caprica 6 from Battlestar Galactica because why wouldn't you? And then for my robot/alien/whatever, I've gone for Slurms Mackenzie from Futurama because he parties for a living. So
Slurms Mackenzie, which one's that?
he's the party slug is the face of the drink Slurm.
Oh,
They win the
He gets
contest to go and party with him, and he ends up partying himself to death.
Yeah, to get them out of the situation.
Right on.
Drunka-lunka, dunkety-darmed guards.
Oh, you wouldn't have Zoidberg. That's sad. I'd have Zoidberg.
Nobody loves Zoidberg.
He'd gate crash it, wouldn't he? So.
Zoidberg doesn't love Zoidberg.
I like Zoidberg.
Yeah, he is.
He was exceptional in that final season. I mean, that episode where the Clamps from the Robot Mafia ends up working on the thing while he's hunting for Bender, and he keeps cutting stuff, and Zoidberg goes ape at him.
How could you not have bet?
Threatens to kill him.
See, now we started talking about Futurama. You could pretty much
Genius.
look back at this dinner party and think you'd just have the people from Futurama.
Could do, but I am already in my pajamas.
He's not much of a party animal, though, dude. We thought about Bender, but then we thought he just ended up getting horrendously drunk in a corner and then break stuff.
And if the table was metal, he'd just end up bending that too.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't metal, he'd bend it.
Yeah.
Horrendously drunk in a corner. It sounds like me at a wedding.
You're blind, stinking sober.
No, you're the one off chasing the bridesmaids normally, aren't you?
There's not that much chasing of bridesmaids that goes on.
Fair enough.
Not that much.
Chris, have you submitted your list of bridesmaids yet?
Um,
Because I kind of need.
I don't know if there are any vacancies in the bridesmaids thing. I know we've got 2 filled.
Tomo's
Because
one.
Mac wants to be one.
I don't.
He looks very pretty in a dress.
No, I'm Chris's DJ. Of
Yeah,
music.
yes, he is kind of DJ.
No, Chris!
Why not?
You like the 80s, right?
I do like the 80s. The 80s are cool.
You like soppy romantic songs?
Rachel does.
So
Do you like
cool.
show tunes from John Barrowman?
Funny how it seems.
I will clamp down on
Always
the. I will
fine.
clamp down on the Barrowman shows.
Every
Okay.
line
He can have a
for
couple. He can have a
free.
couple. I don't mind John Barrowman. He has got a good voice. It's just not too much of anything.
Time for the scores now before the final round. On 21 points, it's Chris.
Oh no.
And on 22, it's Emma and James.
Woo.
And now
Okay.
it's the final round. And in a twist to the usual news stories, our guests will have to give us the details behind a science fiction film. However, it can be true or complete gibberish. So, Chris, with you being the trailer, would you like to pick the running order, please?
Yes, I will go first, then Imusi, and then James.
Okay, so Chris, what is your film called?
My film is called Argo, from March 1980, described as a space opera involving a ship and an asteroid belt, and it's directed by Robert Siddell.
Is that a cat?
Yes, that is a cat.
We
have a
appear to be
third
experiencing
fifth
technical
member.
difficulties. Oh no, it's like that scene from Alien. Only the cat and Sigourney Weaver survive.
We have a third team member.
It's fine. He's come to support us.
Okay, so that was Argo. The Moosey.
Suitably enough, ours is called Cat Women of the Moon.
By Arthur Hilton.
And it's a story of a team of astronauts who travel to the dark side of the moon and find that it is inhabited by women wearing cat suits who act like cats who have never seen men before.
When are those moon flights launching again?
Soon, I believe.
Soon, yeah.
Okay, and James lastly.
My film is called Star Shark. It's directed by Jim Wynorski, who did all those godforsaken, terrible films on the Sci-Fi Channel. The lead role is played by Michael Madsen, and the plot is it's the crew of a scientific space station tormented and attacked, killed one by one by a space shark.
So we have Argo, Catwomen of the Moon, and Star Shark. Chris, we'll start with you. Do you think any of those are true or false?
I'm going to say that Catwomen of the Moon is true, and I'm going to say James is false, because it sounds a little too close and similar to something called Sharknado, which Tomo Walker can tell you about in great detail, for reasons unexplained.
Okay, Emma, Argo and Star Shark?
Okay, I think that both of those are real films.
Okay, and James lastly?
I think both of those are real as well.
Okay, so this could be interesting. So, Chris, Argo.
It's not a real film.
Oh.
It's a massive fake. It was kind of created as a spoof, as a cover up, in order to help with this CIA operation.
Argo's a fake film in Argo.
It was the CIA operation in the late 70s, early 80s, where they were trying to get people out of a hostage situation in Iran, and they came up with this sort of spoof sci-fi film in order to just get themselves in as cover and then to get them out. So yeah.
Wow, that's almost like an Inception answer. So you went for a film that was fake, but was sort of real because it was in a film that is real, but it's still a fake film.
Yes.
Wow, you might just have to rewind the show and listen to that answer again just to fully understand it.
Mind blowing.
Okay, the Catwomen of the Moon. Is this available to rent at Blockbuster?
Probably. It is a real film.
Made in 1953.
Yay. Including some terrible, terrible acting from some women who literally are worse than Catwoman. All of the terrible cat hands meowing and body tight suits.
Bearing in mind there was a split on this one, so this is going to make the final scores very interesting. James, Star Shark.
This is unfortunately fake, although the director is responsible for such atrocities as Piranhaconda and Sharknado, incidentally, who did actually create Sharknado.
I thought I recognised the name.
Piranhaconda is just a terrible cross between a piranha and an anaconda that just kills people. That was terrible, yeah. So, it was fake.
Is it in the water or on land, or is it sort of supposed to be amphibious?
It's a terrible, terrible film. I don't know why anybody ever let them make it.
Have you watched both of these?
Yes.
Okay, so that brings us to the final scores. In last place on 24 points, it's Amusi. On 26 points, it's James. But having a stunning final round there, with pretty much cleaning up all the points. Chris on 28.
How on earth? I was losing in the last round.
So
oh dear.
That
I haven't been this stunned since I found out who Melody Pond actually was.
Spoilers, sweetie.
Spoilers.
So that means Chris and James are through to our Doctor Who finale. Unless, of course, Chris is neutered between that time we filmed that by Rachel for his Karen Gillan answer.
Please don't neuter me, dear. She's not She's not saying that. Okay.
I've never kind of.
If I die.
I've never really wanted to be able to see what sort of going on in Chris's house more than I do right now, because I do want to see that stare.
It's quite the stare. It's been going on for 5 hours.
That's troubling. She should maybe see someone about that.
So thank you to my guests this week, Emma and Lucy, James Miller, and the Victor Chris. We'll be back soon with another sci-fi special. In the meantime, take care and Shatner?
Goodbye. That wasn't worth the wait.
It really wasn't. How about something like it's the Waffle, but not as we know it? Why don't we try that?
That's not.
Stop now.
I'll bring you Captain Picard for a minute.
Okay.
Walk 5. Engage.
And on that bombshell, good night.